Hey, hey, hey. Happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, interestingly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Thursday, March 12th, 2026. This is live stream 1299. One away from 1300. That will be next Tuesday's live show. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few moments. But if you're not very familiar with this show, let me point out it's super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And it skews very heavily into role-playing games. And then I'll normally talk about a topic related to our hobby. And tonight, I'm going to share 5 of my favorite classic Call of Cthulhu adventures. And when I say classic adventures, that means they were published in the 20th century. So if anywhere from 1981, when Call of Cthulhu came out, through 1999, they are all in play. So I'm going to talk about 5 of those, kind of explain why I like them, how you might tweak them a little bit, because early Call of Cthulhu almost felt, looking back on it now, it was revolutionary for its time, but it still kind of feels like investigators going head to head with monsters and a lot of combat, things like that. So now, of course, not as much as Dungeons and Dragons and things like that were, but still, CFC has moved a little bit away from, the constant gun battles and such, or blowing everything up with dynamite that you may have seen in the 80s and 90s. So that is going to be our topic of discussion after today's news. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, as well as reviews and plenty of other things you are not going to see here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Then, of course, because this is a live show, there is chat available. Now, it is important to keep in mind, just showing up does not get you into chat. I've gotten a few emails about that. Just the way it is. You got to be a subscriber to the channel to take part in chat. You must be a subscriber to the channel for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. And the reason why we do that is to keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay, I guess we will say. So let's see, who do we have in chat so far tonight? First out the gate is Mark Hawkswell. The Madman is with us, as is Semper Buffo, W. Forge, Kathy Evans, J-Man is in the house, as well as DB, Kevin King, Old Man Milo. Might be a first-time visit for Old Man Milo, because that nickname does not ring a bell. Then again, Old Man Milo might sit there and tell us, what are you talking about, Jeff? I'm here every show. What's up with you? What's wrong with you, Jeff? My memory shorts out once in a while, but not like that. I also see that Kevin R. Smith is also popping on in tonight. And the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D is chiming in from the shadows. She is one of our chat moderators, as is the Madman. I see Harvey Chuckles and Matthew Blackwell are also joining us. So chat is off and running. Kevin King says, darn, if he, I guess myself, recommends a good one, we'll have to remember the two rules they changed between classic Call of Cthulhu and 7th edition. One of them is the resistance table. That was a big change. Few changes. Let's see. We now have the hard and extreme difficulty levels. Did not have those before the latest edition. And we also have advantage and disadvantage. So there's 3. I'll try to get a spookier laugh when we get to our Call of Cthulhu discussion. Now, keep in mind, the 5 I'm going to talk about are not necessarily my all-time favorites, but they are favorites of mine, and I think a couple of them, maybe even 3 of them, just don't get any attention anymore. Probably, for the most part, one of them you can't find in print anymore, but still. And the topic's a little iffy with a lot of people. So DB says, make it a series, Jeff. I actually started doing that once where we were taking a look at classic Call of Cthulhu adventures, and it didn't do that well. It only pulled in a couple of hundred views for each of the videos. And I was like, yeah, not really worth it. Not really worth it. And let's see, Danny Gable and Cooperative Waffles are also with us tonight. So let's jump right on into the news because I got a lot of it. Well, I have my usual 5, but we've got a couple of videos that we're going to sit back with too. So let's jump right on in because just passing the $175,000 funding mark over on Kickstarter is Beyond the Woods from Old Oak Games. Here's the scoop. Old Oak Games is proud to announce Beyond the Woods, a brand new officially licensed campaign setting for the acclaimed Legend in the Mist role-playing game. Discover the shadowed lands of Tir Naskath, an unforgiving dark fantasy world inspired by ancient Irish myth and legend. You and a band of unlikely allies must leave the safety of Caedarach, the last great city, to explore long-forgotten ruins, uncover unworldly magic, and face gruesome horrors, all in the hopes of finding something that can save your home. Beyond the Woods offers fans of Legend in the Mist a new way to play, trading the rustic fantasy charm of Ravensdale for a beautiful and terrifying world inspired by Irish mythology and influenced by games like Elden Ring. Beyond the Woods gives players the freedom to explore the lands of Tir Naskath, hex by hex, and to customize their map as they brave fallen cities, rediscover lost villages, and uncover the secret history of this ancient and mysterious world. Beyond the Woods brings 2 incredible books to Legend in the Mist, The Wanderer's Handbook and The Lore Keeper's Guide. These beautifully illustrated books are packed with new content for your Legend in the Mist game, and they include an Irish fantasy setting, a complete guide to the city, as well as the world of Tir Naskath, a unique fantasy setting inspired by, once again, ancient Irish myth and legend. Over 50 new theme kits, dozens of new options to build a hero to face the trials of Tir Naskath, including Duty, Guardian of the Oak, Influence, Chieftain, Companion, Swarm of Ravens, Uncanny Being, Puka. Wonder if the Puka's name is Harvey. And many more. 4 new ways to magic. Delve into the mysterious power of the Droi. Succumb to the curse of the werewolves of Ossory. Summon the magic of the Morrigan. And discover new rote spells. There's Hexcrawl Exploration. Your journey is at the heart of your adventure, featuring dozens of new journeys and vignettes across a variety of landscapes and biomes. The new Hexcrawl Exploration rules allow you to follow the road wherever it takes you. Build your bastions. Reclaim the wilderness or build a new home using the Bastion theme book, complete with new theme kits, quests, and special improvements. There's fairies, spirits, and the other world. Encounter strange spirits and fairies with dozens of new challenges and face terrifying creatures from Irish myth, including the beaning Beansay, the blood-sucking Avraktak, and relentless Dulashan. I'm Irish, but I mispronounce all of those, I guarantee you, because I don't speak Gaelic. Neither do most Irish who live in Ireland. This also includes 6 exciting adventures. Yes, 6 complete scenarios written by some of today's best tabletop role-playing game writers. Escape the clutches of a soul-sucking fairy. Face down the monstrous hungry man. Just give him a frozen dinner. He should be all right. Rescue a stolen magical bull to save a wedding, and more. There's even language guides. So it'll help you pronounce old Irish terms and writing in the ancient Ogham alphabet. There is I want to say it's a little more than 3 minutes, if I recall correctly, video for the Kickstarter. So let's take a peek.
The leaves have begun to fall. For centuries, you have lived beneath the boughs of the great oak, protected by its golden glow from the horrors that dwell beyond its light. The Slona Marv, the accursed souls of the vengeful dead, watch with hungry eyes. Only the blazing light of the golden oak keeps them at bay. But the golden oak is dying. You must leave. Gather what you can and journey into Tirna Scoth. Seek out the ancient magic that was lost when the world died. Delve into overgrown and forgotten ruins and face wicked fairies and vengeful spirits from the other world, beyond the woods. A brand new dark fantasy campaign setting for the acclaimed Legend in the Mist RPG that draws on the myths and legends of ancient Ireland. Create your hero using over 50 new theme kits and new ways of magic, inspired by Irish folklore. Face dozens of new challenges, including the terrifying Dullahan and the Avertok, the Irish vampire. New rules for Hexcrawl exploration let you customize your map as you journey across Tirna Scoth. Uncover lost cities, delve into ancient ruins, and explore perilous dungeons as you search for something that can save your home. Bring light into the darkness as you explore, using the new Bastion rules to build outposts or found entirely new settlements. The time has come. We can no longer cower from horrors that lurk in the shadows. We must face them. We must venture beyond the woods.
You can reserve a copy of both books in hardcover with PDFs for a €95 pledge, or score just the PDFs for a €38 pledge. I want to say, I think €95 is about $110, and €38 is around $45. This project does run through March 26th. Expected fulfillment is August 2027. Boo. And Matthew Constantine has popped on in. They can't stay, but they wanted to say hello. So good to see you, Matthew. Enjoy your weekend. So this looks very cool. Now, there was a comment, I think it was W. Forge had mentioned they're shopping for the Dolmenwood crowd. Reality is, people who are backing this have absolutely no idea what Dolmenwood even is. They're jumping on this because of Legend in the Mist, which has done very, very well for Son of Oak Game Studio. And we do have reviews from Sammy of that because she had the PDFs. So we do have Legend in the Mist. And the newest, well, I don't know if it's, yeah, I guess it's relatively new. The setting book, the Ravensdale book. Like I say, I like the artwork too. So here's what I'm kind of curious about with this. So there is Beyond the Woods from this company 45E, which crowdfunded, I want to say in 2024. That's why I'm kind of curious why it's going to take a year and a half to get this out. It's going to take a year and a half to stat it over for Legend in the Mist. Sounds weird, doesn't it? I am seeing more and more crowdfunding projects. Well, here's the weird thing. I see quite a few that when they launch, it's like, oh yeah, hey, our fulfillment is in 4 months. So right there, you know it's done. And they are just looking to see, okay, so how many copies are we going to order, right? What's our print order going to be? Okay, more and more of those. We're seeing more and more of those. And then we're also seeing more and more crowdfunding projects come out, and it's like, okay, well, this is going to be fulfilled in almost 2 years. And it's like, what? It's like, that's a long time, especially if they're going to charge like when the project ends. That's a lot of time to tie up people's money. I'm just saying. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody from checking this out. This does look pretty cool. And there is a preview. I think it's about 30 pages. You're seeing some of it right now. But I'm just kind of curious why it's going to take this long, unless it's one of these projects where they're like, well, you know what? Let's say it's way out, and that way we can pretty much over deliver when we're done with it, you know, in spring of next year. Kevin King says they're worried by the time the new Numenera ships, they're going to be on the 10th world. Said time flows differently in the Fey realm. Moving right along, the Avalon Rising role-playing game is now available in print from Black Site Studios. Here's what I know. Welcome to the depths of Avalon 01. In a history long forgotten, humanity sealed itself inside Avalon 01, a vast megastructure of concrete, steel, and neon. Within its infinite corridors and hidden depths, survival depends on navigating a fractured society divided into layers, each one clinging to life in its own way. At the city's core lies central dogma, the mysterious power that sustains Avalon. It gives light, warmth, and power to millions, but it also corrupts. Energy leaks twist the city, birthing anomalies and horrors that threaten to consume humanity. Every day, citizens must confront these terrors or see their city fall to the dark forces from beyond. You are one of those citizens, a bureaucrat drowning in red tape, a tooler scavenging forgotten tech. Whatever your path, your choices define both your survival and Avalon's fate. Avalon Rising is a tabletop role-playing game inspired by 80s sci-fi, cassette futurism, and cyberpunk classics. Build your citizen, descend into the dark history of the city, and see how long you can endure beneath the crushing weight of Avalon. The 237-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $49.99. I gotta say, this looks pretty cool. And I will also mention, I don't believe the PDF is available separately. At least not over at Drive-Thru RPG. I can tell you that. Yeah, I can tell you that. Kevin R. Smith says they suspect some creators want to be cautious. They pick a date it would be hard to overshoot. Of course, that didn't work well for James Raggi. Yeah. Are we talking about the, what is it, the bestiary? Is it the best or the magic book? Which one is it? The magic book for Lamentations of the Flame Princess? That people have been waiting forever for? James Mitchell is with us in chat. Welcome aboard. On our next news piece, Fanatical is offering a smashing deal on third-party Shadow Dark content, and I've got the deets on the deal. Unlock this treasure trove of Shadow Dark RPG goodies with this amazing collection of adventures, campaigns, character options, and more from the magnificent Menagerie Press. Discover atmospheric settings, journeys, campaigns, and of course, dungeons to test your character's might with books like Celtic Shadows, which takes your characters to a mythical Ireland-inspired setting. Yes, the theme tonight. Rats of Ugol, where you battle dastardly rat folk. Woeful Barrows and Other Places, a series of high-stakes encounters exploring dangerous tombs, crypts, and other dark places. Whether you're a lone wanderer, a cunning arcanist. I am a cunning arcanist, me lord. Hey, at least they didn't say a cunning linguist, right? Or a steel-clad berserker. This collection delivers endless danger and discovery. Snap up your copy today. All products are redeemed through Drive-Thru RPG. Now, you can jump aboard for only $1. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say it. Don't worry. Almost did. Or you can go all in for $12.99 in order to grab all 26 PDFs on offer through April 28th. So, yeah, so they've got lots of role-playing bundles going on right now. And that was to celebrate the GM's Day sale over at Fanatical. And yes, I have a bit of information about Fanatical I'm going to mention right after we finish the news. So those are a couple of items that I have to put a pin in. Fanatical and stream number 1300. Stay tuned. Got 2 news stories to go. Let's see. So Kevin R. Smith says that I think it's the GM's Guide. He picked a date several years out and still managed to not make it. I don't know. Just like Michael Neistel, I should say. I think it's his last name is pronounced Neistel. Was at Page. And it was kind of funny. I did not run across him, but he went to the same high school as Elliot and I, and he was the president of our rival game club. And yes, he wore the fedora and the Doctor Who scarf even back then. He wore it every day. So that has been his look for 50 years, basically. But yeah, I remember he was crowdfunding some things that never saw the light of day, and people were a bit upset about that. But it was kind of funny. A couple of people had mentioned him when we were at Page, and Elliot and I are like, yeah, he went to our high school. He was like the enemy club, because all they did was play D&D. We played everything. So they were a D&D club. We were a gaming club. That's why we played Fletcher Pratt's and Squad Leader and Top Secret and all these other things too. So there you go. Dr. Waits is with us. Welcome aboard. Might be a first-time visit here in chat. So did you have a game club rumble in the halls? Yeah, we were like doing the snapping our fingers as we were kind of like dancing up. No. Though I went to a massive high school. I went to a huge high school. Check out Lane Technical High School in Chicago. The building itself takes up a city block, and I'm talking about a big city block. I'm trying to remember, I think when I was there, we had 8,000 students. Somewhere in that vicinity, maybe a little less than that. Maybe it was 6,500, something like that. I know they made a big deal about how there were small towns that had fewer people than our high school. So there you have it. All righty, moving right along. Passing $250,000 in crowdfunding is the third edition of the 7th Sea role-playing game. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. I've got the lowdown from Studio Agate. Whether you're a longtime 7th Sea veteran or an RPG fan looking for cinematic action, the third edition is made for you. For newcomers, they've designed third edition to be a welcoming gateway into the incredible world of 7th Sea. Even if you've never played before, this is the perfect opportunity to discover it. To get started, you only need the core book. Everything is inside to create heroes, play swashbuckling scenes, and launch your first campaigns. There's also a starter set, which is going to be included as a PDF in all pledge levels, which provides a first major adventure to get you in the saddle. Wouldn't that be for a Western role-playing game? Getting you in the saddle? For Thea veterans, this new version advances the world's timeline by 10 years. Geopolitical balances have shifted and new intrigues rumble beneath the surface. This edition deepens the setting with details, factions, and revelations to fuel your campaigns, while keeping your second edition books relevant. They remain a treasure trove of ideas, locations, characters, and plots to reuse in this new era. Now, there is a Kickstarter video. It is in French, but there are subtitles. So let's give it a peek.
Alors, Septième Mer, c'est un jeu de rôle de cap et d'épée. Septième Mer, c'est un jeu qui est sorti à la fin des années 90. La première édition, c'était l'Europe de la Renaissance. La deuxième, c'était la Terre de la Renaissance, entre guillemets. Le jeu propose d'incarner des héros, des personnages qui sont très forts. Donc un univers qui est très facile à prendre en main, parce que ça se joue sur des œuvres de culture populaire que tout le monde connaît. L'aventure de cette troisième édition, elle a commencé avec un sondage auprès de la communauté Septième Mer. Qu'est-ce que vous voulez pour la suite?
On va reposer une base un peu différente de celle de la seconde édition. Le but, c'est pas de chambouler le lecteur, mais c'est juste de faire une nouvelle proposition.
On joue des héros, on est très fort et très fort dès le départ. Et c'était aussi le parti pris de la deuxième édition, de manière beaucoup plus poussée. Là, la demande de la communauté, ça a été de revoir ce système, de remettre un peu de suspense dedans, et donc de s'inspirer de ce qui avait été fait pour la première édition, donc le système Roll and Keep. On jette plein de dés, mais on n'en garde qu'une partie. Ça va nous permettre de faire des actions très héroïques et pleines de panache, mais potentiellement aussi, pourquoi pas, de rater. Septième Mer, troisième édition, ce sera quoi? Ce sera déjà une boîte d'initiation. Tu as un kit de découverte librement téléchargeable. Dedans, tu as le système, tu as des personnages pré-tirés et tu as un premier scénario. Ce premier scénario, c'est le premier scénario de la campagne. C'est celui qui va t'amener à sauver le roi de Castille. Et après, qu'est-ce qui va se passer? Ce sera dans la campagne. Avec ça, il va y avoir un certain nombre d'accessoires qui vont être proposés pour essayer d'augmenter un peu l'expérience de jeu. Il y aura un livre de base autonome qui permettra de jouer très rapidement. Et si tu es meneur, tu as ce deuxième livre, Les secrets de la 7e mer, qui va t'offrir une chronologie, qui va donner les grandes dates clés, la description de toutes les sociétés secrètes, des focus sur chaque nation et sur chaque continent du monde aussi.
Ce qu'on propose aussi, c'est de nouvelles illustrations. Ces couvertures, elles ont un point un peu particulier, un peu singulier, c'est qu'on les construit un peu comme des affiches de films. On voit les différents protagonistes principaux. On a une énergie qui tourne entre ces personnages-là, les couleurs, et en même temps, juste traduire le côté, on va faire un film ensemble.
Donc ça veut dire quoi si tu es un fan de la deuxième édition et que tu as acheté tous tes livres ? C'est-à-dire que tous tes livres, ils ne sont pas obsolètes. L'univers qui est dedans, c'est toujours le même. Dans la nouvelle édition, nous, on propose une évolution de la chronologie 10 ans plus tard. Donc si tu joues à la deuxième édition, tu as 2 cadres de jeu. 1668, c'était la deuxième édition, ou 1678, et tu joues où tu veux, soit l'un, soit l'autre, soit entre les deux, tu auras une chronologie qui permettra de te placer. Si tu es un nouveau, avec ce nouveau livre de base, tu peux juste découvrir 7e mer, en fait. Ce que l'on cherche à faire, c'est que les joueurs, en jouant à 7e mer, ils se sentent puissants. On n'est pas le sbire de Jack Sparrow, on est Jack Sparrow. Vous serez héroïque, vous serez plein de panache, ça va être classe.
Ça annonce qu'on rentre là-dedans, quoi. On va faire du cap et d'épée, on va sauter, ça va exploser de partout. C'est vraiment le but de faire un peu des choses un peu folles, quoi.
The Kickstarter project is way past its funding goal, as I had mentioned, at just past $250,000. You can reserve a copy of the core book in hardcover as well as PDFs, which includes that aforementioned starter set, for a pledge of 40 euros. If you want to grab all the PDFs, because there are multiple books that are crowdfunding. I think there's one is a setting guide and that starter set. You want to get everything in PDF. It's 60 euros through April 10th. There are quite a lot of different pledge levels going for this. So you can dip your toes in as deeply as you want with this 7th Sea Kickstarter. Expected fulfillment is June of 2027. They are in the midst of play tests, and they're about to begin their 3rd wave of play testing for this. So earlier I was saying, well, geez, August 2027, that's way off. This is a little bit different because they're being very upfront saying, hey, you know what? We're still play testing all this, but you can jump on board. There you go. Kind of cool. As somebody had mentioned, between Freeport and Pirateborg, they're all pirated up. Kevin Art King, yes, I could certainly understand that. Dr. Waits asked, is this an RPG? Stray Kismet mentions that my former high school is huge. Yes, it was. Just think, trying to go from one end of that building to the other end of the building in, I think they gave us 7 minutes between periods, something like that. Yeah, it can be tricky. It can be kind of tricky. And I see the Madman says one of their pre-programmed exercise bike routes took them past Lane Tech down Addison. Yes. If you kept going down Addison, you went right by Wrigley Field. In fact, every year we would have an outing where we would go to Wrigley Field at the school. I mean, yeah, there were other times that we went cutting classes down to the Cubs game, but we would have everyone, the whole, well, whoever was going, all walk down Addison, and they would actually block off the street because you had thousands of kids walking down to the ballpark. And then after that, it was sort of like, well, you were on your own. You could go home after the game. So there you go. There you go. Bamboozled Great Crowd is with us again tonight. Let's see, just taking a peek, see if anybody's popped in. I have not said hello to. I think I've said hi to everybody in chat so far. Very cool. All right, on to our final news piece. The latest issue of the old school themed role-playing zine Populated Hexes Monthly has arrived. Here's the skinny from Third Kingdom Games. Populated Hexes Monthly issue 53 remains in the area known as the Ruins of Izenden, or Eisenden. I think that sounds better. Eisenden, focusing on a small section of moors inhabited by a fey creature called a Korrid and the barrow of a forgotten warlord. It includes stats for Korrid, redcaps, and greater zombies, as well as the Nykur, a half Nixie, half human class, as well as some classes updated for Briarch and Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy. Populated Hexes Monthly is a, monthly periodical zine written for Old School Essentials and other similar OSR systems. Each issue covers one area in the world of Absalom, the author's setting, looking at a hex and the inhabitants' features of that hex. It's designed to provide location and geographical hexes that can be used either as drop-in locations in an existing campaign setting or as part of a larger hex crawl. The 40-page A5 size softcover with PDF is available over at DriveThruRPG for $7.95. If you want to grab just the PDF, you can do so for $2.95. Very nice. I like Populated Hexes Monthly. Actually, Third Kingdom Games does cool stuff. I will have a review of that Briarch Quick Start in the not too distant future. Not right away, not too distant future. In fact, sadly, this weekend, I doubt very highly, I guess I should say. I shouldn't say I won't. I doubt very highly I'll actually have any reviews out because I am working on a Kickstarter preview video for next week. Kickstarter goes live next Tuesday. Boomerman Dan Webb is with us. All right. So I think it was Kevin R. Smith asking about if Michael Neistel was at Page promoting something. No, he was a special guest. And I want to say that they were celebrating like a lifetime in gaming or something like that. I've spent 16 years promoting this hobby. I've been a special guest once, and that was at the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, and it was more for me to be an interviewer than anything else. I was not on any panels. Nobody made any big deal about it. I was like, okay, all right. I'm not feeling too special, but yeah, well, whatever. Whatever. All right. So, a couple of things. Number one, Fanatical. The gaming gang is now an affiliate of Fanatical. They reached out to ask me. I guess they reached out in January to try to team up with me, and I completely missed it. I searched for the email. I didn't see it. But the email was attached to this new email that I got this morning. And I was like, that's kind of funny because just the other day when I was putting together a news piece for one of the Fanatical bundles that are out there, I thought to myself, you know what? I wonder if they've got an affiliate program because everything is always linked to DriveThruRPG, which you already know the gaming gang is an affiliate of. Yes, in fact, if you are going to stop by any of the one bookshelf sites, say Drive Through RPG, Storytellers Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, Wargame Vault, any of those numerous one bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of that sale. And all those commissions really do add up, help keep the gaminggang.com website around. As far as Fanatical goes, I have changed the format of how I do news stories on thegaminggang.com. So I used to post them after the show. Now I post them before the show. So as far as Fanatical goes, if I'm talking about one of their bundles and you're like, hey, that sounds interesting, go to thegaminggang.com. There'll be a news piece for it. The affiliate links are right there. Of course, if you enjoy this video, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. If you're having a good time hanging out in chat, show some interaction. I forget what they call that, where you're like, give it a heart or a thumbs up or whatever. It's not hyping, I know that. But I guess that's something that YouTube is looking at now with live streams. Are people giving it the heart or whatever? So there's that. Anyway, but of course, if you enjoy the Gaming Gang, if you find this to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, I also got a couple of other ways that you can actually support the outlet. Number one, by making a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. That was just wonderful. You can even become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links in the show notes. Also down in those show notes, you're going to find an invite link to our Discord server. Absolutely free to sign up. So be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. And Mark Grayan, I'm sure I mispronounced that, is joining us in chat. I got to say, the nickname doesn't ring any bells. Might be a first-time visit. Live in chat. Probably, no, you know what? Now, actually, it's not. I take that back. But, a super chat for 10 pounds sterling. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Thank you kindly. Let's see. I think Stephen, yes, Stephen from Roll for Combat is with us in chat. What did he say? He made a big deal about me being a special guest over at Page. Yeah, Steve and I chatted a little, inside baseball while we were there. Kevin R. Smith says, I screwed up by never working at TSR. Kind of tough to work for a company that you really stopped playing their games. So remember, if you're not overly familiar with the outlet, and I mention this from time to time, when we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons, I moved away from D&D back about 81, 82, probably 81, really. I don't recall playing any D&D unless we were at like a game day or something like that. Yeah, I don't recall playing any D&D from like 82 on. We just kind of moved away from TSR. We probably played more Top Secret than anything as far as TSR goes. Although we all had all of the games. We all had, Gamma World and Boot Hill. I got to say, I think I played Boot Hill once with the first edition. Kind of wild. Kevin King says lots of buffering going on their end. It is not here. I'll tell you that much. So we are showing, well, knock on wood, 0 dropped frames. Anyway, but so that was the one thing about Fanatical. And then for live stream 1300 next Tuesday, be sure to tune in live. There will be giveaways. Just letting you know. I don't know if there's going to be a topic or maybe I'll just do an AMA. I haven't decided yet. Bard the Bear Wolfson is with us once again. Welcome aboard. But anyway, so Mark Grian says they blame the Mothman for the buffering. Is everybody getting a lot of buffering or is it just Kevin King? Because I'll tell you what, the interwebs have not been friendly as of late. Is anybody else having like major problems with Chrome? Like some websites it loads right up and other websites it's like, what the hell is going? I have had Chrome have a hard time connecting to Google. It's like, what? Then if I jump on Firefox, it's all fine. And I've also noticed Google is updating just constantly. Practically every day, I'll open up Chrome and it's like, oh, Chrome is updated. It's like, oh yeah, now what have you done? Yeah. Kevin R. Smith said they had one site they were having trouble loading today. Now I understand when sites have problems. Servers have issues. I mean, there's been times it's taken forever for the gaminggang.com to load. Normally it doesn't, because our cache is pretty well put together. But it's like, okay, why is it always like I was trying to get my dad onto his bank account. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? It's like I got things to do today. Let's see. So Mark A. Matos is joining us tonight. Says it's the old gods messing with the internet. It's got to be it. Gots to be it. All right. So tonight, I'm going to discuss 5 of my favorite classic Call of Cthulhu adventures. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat. It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
McDonald's is our kind of place. It's such a happy place. Happy place. A clean and snappy place. McDonald's is our kind of place. It's such a happy place. McDonald's is our kind of place. Your kind of place.
McDonald's believes in getting food to your kids before they get to each other. Such good food, too. McDonald's famous French fries, triple thick creamy shakes, lean beefy cheeseburgers and hamburgers, icy cold soft drinks. And here's a plus, spill-proof lids on all beverages. Another plus, napkins that are big as a bib. Quality, cleanliness, extra care service. That's McDonald's. A total value that's unmatched anywhere.
McDonald's is our kind of place. It's such a happy place. McDonald's is our kind of place.
Your kind of place.
Here's the new Star Wars X-Wing Fighter and the Star Wars TIE Fighter. Spaceships and Luke Skywalker sold separately, batteries not included.
I'll get you this time, Luke. Reactivate X-Wing.
Both have flashing lights and sound.
Hey, there go the solar panels. And Darth Vader got away. The Force is with me. Luke Skywalker wins again.
Kenner's Star Wars X-Wing Fighter, TIE Fighter, and action figures all sold separately.
You know, people who don't drink Wilkins coffee just blow up sometimes. Oh, that's a lot of... See what I mean?
The nights are darker. And night is when it happens in the Dunwich Horror.
Come back, old one, princes of darkness, and repossess the earth.
The Dunwich Horror, based on H.P. Lovecraft's terrifying tale of those who explore the unspeakable. Starring Sandra Dee, Dean Stockwell, Academy Award winner Ed Begley, Sam Jaffe. He believes the history of horrendipity written here. The love story of a girl looking to the future, and a boy dedicated to the mysteries of the past. He invokes the unspeakable.
Ya, Satha.
She invites it.
You're one of us now.
It's a depthless paradise of terror where fear eternal lives. And the dead come to life.
I've never heard anything like that.
Yes, Sandra Dee in The Dunwich Horror. Believe it or not, I have not seen that movie. And who was it just said, Jeff, I know you don't like the AIP movies. There were a few that were okay. I remember as a kid. But, it was DB. DB says, this one's all right. Not great. Pretty good. Kevin R. Smith didn't know there was an Ed Begley Sr. Really? That's pretty wild. Yes, there was. There was. So let's see. Experience the horror of late 70s fashion. Yeah, was that supposed to be like an orgy going on there or something? Because it was like, yeah, what? What do you want? Kind of weird. Kind of weird. Yes, I apologize. I had not changed the intermission trailer. The brief intermission. I was like, damn it. Once I started, I was like, did I change it? I checked the properties of the video. I'm like, I didn't. So sorry you got the opening twice. But hey, at least you got the movie trailer that has something to do with what we're talking about tonight, because I'm going to share relatively quickly. We're not going to delve too deeply into these. And of course, if you are taking part in chat, join in, share your favorite Call of Cthulhu adventures from the 20th century, if you were around back then, playing, Call of Cthulhu back then. I'm sure all of you were around back then, but maybe not necessarily playing role-playing games. And of course, if you're watching after the fact, if you're catching the show on Memorex, let me know your favorite Call of Cthulhu adventure from the 20th century in the comment section. Very nice. So I'm going to share 5. And I'm sure there's going to be a couple of them that you're going to be familiar with. Maybe a couple that you're not so familiar with. So, first off is a campaign, actually, but it's not a super long campaign because I wanted to try to stick with just, kind of self-contained adventures. This is not one, but Horror's Heart, and it is from 1996. And I remember running this for my group, which was my best friend Elliot Miller, his nephew Paul, and then our friend Ed Ruprecht. So those three were the gang. They were the Call of Cthulhu investigation gang. So they were my constant game partners, I guess we'll say. So anyway, so the adventure itself takes place in Canada, which was something a little different. And it took place in Montreal. And the big selling point was it wasn't hugely mythos. It involved what would be the thing I'm trying? What am I trying to say here, Jeff? It wasn't enmeshed in the mythos. In fact, the main antagonists in it is a crime syndicate in Montreal. And they also just happen to be werewolves. So it was a pretty good adventure. It was pretty good. Although there were some inconsistencies with it. If I remember correctly, there was a book that the player characters find early on in the adventure, and the description early on about the book is different than how it's referred to later on in the adventure. It was sort of like, that's one of the things with some of the older Call of Cthulhu adventures. Now, granted, 1996, the game had been around for quite some time, so it was no longer kind of the monster hunting D&D that some early adventures were. But still, there was a little unevenness to some of the adventures a lot of times. I guess maybe there wasn't as good of editing going on over at Chaosium at that point. But so some things would slip through. Strike Kismet asked, did Mounties just wrestle werewolves for fun? Mark Hawkswell says the only Call of Cthulhu scenario they've run is Deadlight. Not classic, but it was pretty good fun. I've run it. Yep, I ran that for Cameron, my nephew, and Elliot. Not that long ago, probably about 3 years ago. So they had fun with it. They had a good time with it. They were not having an easy time figuring out how to defeat the Deadlight. But yay, idea roll helped them out. What can I say? What can I say? So some discussion about Canada being weird. I don't mean Canada is weird. I'm just saying it was different because usually the published adventures were all taking place in the United States, mainly Lovecraft country. So when you would have adventures that took place in, out west, right? It was like, whoa, hey, well, this takes place in New Mexico. Wow. You know who actually dabbled in areas outside of Lovecraft country the best was Pagan Press. Pagan Press did a campaign. I'm trying to remember the name of it. And it's out in LA. And it's supposed, if I remember right, it's the 30s. Takes place in the 30s. And there's There's some, there's Hollywood angles to it and stuff like that. And there is this analog for Walt Disney who becomes like one of the villains that the player characters have to deal with. And he's like super, super weird and creepy. It's like, yep. Don't recall what it was called, though. It's funny because I can remember the titles to other pagan publishing books. Coming Full Circle, Mortal Coils, but those aren't them. Mark Grian says Eternal Lies. No, that's actually Pelgrane Press. That's for Trail of Cthulhu, which is getting a second edition. Because I know that Pelgrane Press wants me to look at it when it comes out, wants me to review it. I don't know when it's coming out. I don't know if, didn't they kickstart it already? Didn't they crowdfund it? Maybe not. Maybe not. No, sadly, Pagan Press, it was Pagan Publishing, is long out of business. They were behind the really excellent Call of Cthulhu magazine, The Unspeakable Oath, which when it first came out was I think it was quarterly originally, and then it was like, okay, then once a year, and then once every 2 years. But they really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. DB said, I thought you were talking about Coming Full Circle. Coming Full Circle is not the one that takes place in LA. Isn't Coming Full Circle Lovecraft Country? Hey, you got to realize I don't have any of this stuff anymore. I haven't had this stuff in years and years and years and years and years. So I'm just going off the old memory banks here. But I know there were like 4 seriously sized Call of Cthulhu books that came out from Pagan Publishing. We're talking like, 250, 300 pages. And those were 2 of them. Boomerman Dan Webb says, I love the idea of Cthulhu in Disneyland. Matthew Blackwell hasn't had a chance to play Call of Cthulhu, never got around to it. If you like horror, if you like suspense, you would dig it. So they were playing AD&D 007 and Star Frontiers. Dan Webb said, like I said, they like the Cthulhu in Disneyland angle. Strike Kismet says it's unspeakable. That's why they printed it. Yep. It was a good zine. It really was. But it was one of those kind of like, because it was more along the lines of production quality, like a soft cover adventure book of like 120 pages. It wasn't like a magazine. So I think all in all, there are about 18 issues. Might have been more than that. But it was sort of like once they got to about like issue 6, 7, that's when it like really hit its stride. Because there'd be adventures in it, and you'd have new monsters and new, mythos tomes and stuff like that. It was really, really nicely done. Very, very well done. All right. So first adventure, Horror's Heart, 1996. It's a werewolf crime syndicate in Montreal. Another of my favorites. And you can still get your hands on it. In fact, some of the items I'm talking about are actually in the reprint. This is the 2-inch box of original Call of Cthulhu, which I reviewed. This is from a couple of years ago, Yeah, but I think 2. I don't think it's longer than that. But this is just jam-packed with, like, the first 2, 3 years of Call of Cthulhu releases, and one of my favorites is actually right here on the cover of The Asylum and Other Tales. And The Asylum takes place in Greenwood Asylum for the Deranged. That is, if I remember correctly, that is the title. You know, I could have cracked this open and taken a look to make sure, but I seem to recall that's the title of the institution that it takes place. And it's a good adventure to bust out when you have a couple of investigators who are now having to undergo treatment because they're insane. And it's the adventure starts off where, you know, everybody thinks that it's just, oh, well, you know, there's nothing wrong here. No, everything's fine. And it turns out the director of the asylum is actually experimenting with blending human DNA. And of course, it's not DNA. They didn't know what the hell that was back in the 1920s. But they're blending it with that of Shoggoths. And it's like, what? And of course, because you've got players who have to, you know, deal with being insane, nobody believes them when they're talking about it. So I will tell you, it is kind of tricky to run with player characters who are not committed to the asylum and characters that are. It's easier to tackle that adventure either with all of the player characters have been admitted to this asylum, or all of the player characters are like associates or friends or whatever of someone who's been committed. And then they get onto the trail of what's going on. But it's a pretty fun adventure, and it does suffer a little bit from that kind of early years of Call of Cthulhu, where even though the player characters are just regular folk, it kind of defaults to combat in more often than it should for Call of Cthulhu. And funny enough, even all the way back then, and I would have been 15, 16, running Call of Cthulhu, I kind of stayed away from like just the, you know, every time you turn around, there's action going on, like combat action. I know. I don't know why I did that, because I mean, that was sort of the default for role playing games, right? It's just, well, just kill it. Reading Aids with us. Alan Rowe has also joined us. Glad to see you both back once again. Reading Aid says they're very late. Still waiting for a Kickstarter from 2 years ago. Just a couple of months ago, they finalized their quick start. Yes, their freaking quick start. What Kickstarter is that? I'm kind of curious. Boomerman Dan Webb says player characters who are insane and get cured to become more insane resistant investigators. Another adventure. Now, this one is a personal favorite of mine, going way back. I know there are people out there who don't like this adventure, and it is Mr. Corbett. And it is from 1990s Mansions of Madness. And it's also in the 7th edition Mansions of Madness as well. And yeah, there are some spoilers here. Boys and girls, ladies and gents. So the premise is, and first of all, you got to change the name of the character. Got to change the name of the NPC, especially if you've run The Haunting, or what once was known as the Haunted House, which we're going to talk about Haunted House, but it's not that one in just a couple of moments. But it involves a neighbor named Mr. Corbett, but the owner of the house in The Haunting is also named Corbett. So that if you've run it, and you would actually run Mr. Corbett probably early in your investigators' careers. In fact, you might even use it as one of their first starting adventures, if not the starting adventure to bring the investigators together. So it's one of these situations where it's something wrong in a nice, affluent neighborhood where, you know, everybody's house is pristine and their lawns are all mowed and everybody knows each other and they all say hello to each other. And you have this one neighbor who suddenly things just don't tend to stack up. Something seems out of whack. And as Mark Green points out, Mr. Corbett's good as long as someone sees that initial clue. So another thing with Mr. Corbett is that I think, I'm not positive, but I think that it was originally a convention adventure because it kind of throws the characters into the mix pretty quickly. And if I were to run Mr. Corbett now, and I ran it back in 1990 when it came out, if I were to run it now, and I have read the new edition, which I think they fleshed it out a little bit, but I would flesh it out a little bit more. And I would probably look towards either who are the player characters, because one thing that's a nice selling point for Call of Cthulhu is you can get away with running a Call of Cthulhu campaign with 3 players and a keeper. There are a lot of adventures out there you can run with a couple of players, even one-on-one. I've done that many times over the years, just a one-on-one. But I mean, it's not a good luck running a campaign with one other player that's not just a string of standalone adventures tied together, right? But if I were to run it now, I would probably have it that if I had 3 players, 2 of them are investigator types, and then the third is the nosy neighbor who knows these investigator types, who kind of draws them into the proceedings, because it would be kind of weird. I mean, if you start doing it where like everybody's neighbors, then all of a sudden it kind of has a vibe like it's The Burbs, you know, the Tom Hanks film. And I guess now it's a series. I have not checked it out yet. And then I don't think that works all that well. If it's like all the neighbors, it's like, okay, also all the neighbors just happen to be investigator types. But what happens is that children have been going missing. This is where some people are like, no. It's like there's another adventure I'm going to mention that some people out there are, no. And I get it. I completely understand it. But children are disappearing because Mr. Corbett has this thing in his basement and he's adding pieces of the kids to it. And it's funny because there's artwork. I wonder if they show it in here. I think this is where they have the picture that looks really goofy. No, not so bad. All right, this isn't as bad. I think it was the first edition that had kind of an oddball picture. Let's see if you can kind of see it. But it's all these like arms and legs and stuff like that. And in my opinion, it is the Call of Cthulhu answer to the Dungeons and Dragons or fantasy role-playing situation where, all right, so you've battled all the orcs and suddenly, you realize there's baby orcs. What are we supposed to do with them? Because this thing, it's not this thing's fault, right? Not this creature's fault. It is what it is. So I remember the first time I ran this, it really creeped the hell out of the gang, because it was like, well, what do we do with it? Because do you kill it? But yeah, I always like that adventure. Like I said, when you get into like children being murdered and stuff like that. Well, yes, that's going to be one of those X cards some people at the table will be like, hey, wait, hold on. Hang on. And I completely get it. I completely understand that. Stray Kismet says when they played Mr. Corbett, they were the HOA. Stray Kismet says, I'm not crazy. I just have thick skin. Someone stop that book from talking while I dial in this seashell. Agile Monk is with us in chat tonight. Welcome aboard. But as written, Mr. Corbett it's also one of those adventures that has some inconsistencies to it. I would maybe introduce a mother figure to the proceedings. So there's kind of a plot line with that in the adventure. I'd probably expand upon that quite a bit. Next up is The Haunted House. And when I say The Haunted House, I do not mean the adventure that is now I want to say it's in the quick start for this edition of Call of Cthulhu. It's not in the starter set. It's not in the core rule book. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's now the quick start. For 6th editions, it was in the core rule book. It was in the core rule book. In fact, I was going to pull out the original, but that's The Haunting now. I'm talking about The Haunted House, which it came out in 1984. I want to say, I think it's a Keith Herber adventure. I don't know why that's popping in my head, but if you enjoyed The Haunting, this expands it out more, but it has nothing to do with that adventure. So the investigators are reading, I think it's like supposed to be like Occult Review magazine. This is one of the hooks. So if they're like ghost hunter types, because that's kind of how a lot of Call of Cthulhu campaigns were, especially back in the day. It was like your players became like a mature Scooby-Doo gang. Or be like, oh, we heard something weird. Or they get letters from people. Hey, well, we heard what happened in Arkham, and we wanted to reach out so you could. No joke. I mean, that was the hook for a lot of adventures. So it was like, kind of along the lines of Scooby-Doo, right? Monster of the Week. Troy Cornelson's with us Once again, says Jeff has a very deep in thought look. I guess maybe. Actually, I don't do that when I'm thinking. I don't have like a sort of like I'm thinking about something. I just look like this. Anyway, so the haunted house is probably one of the only Call of Cthulhu adventures I can think of that it's okay to make it the keeper versus the players. Because the premise is the player characters go off to investigate this mansion in Michigan. And it is the Van Layden house because there's strange occurrences going on. And it turns out that it's the wood from, I think it's the mantle, is from a tree in Scotland that some ancient druid had like melded with. And the druid is evil. It's like nearly 1,000 years old, right? And he's the one who's creating all the problems. So there are certain things that can take place in the house. And one of the cool things I always liked about the adventure is it's almost all psychological. There is no, bed that knocks people out the window to their deaths, right? But the house is the druid is aiming to drive the investigators insane. And it is not all that difficult to do with all the different things that are taking place in the house. So, like I said, it's one of the few Call of Cthulhu adventures where I can see that it's all right to have more of a keeper versus players sort of confrontation, as long as the keeper is playing within the capabilities of this entity. And the other thing too is it's not very easy to defeat this thing, because you would have to destroy this big, huge wooden mantle. And what are you going to do? Burn the whole house down? It's not what they're looking for. So Sarah D's got to rock out. So thank you for hanging with us as always. Have a great weekend. See you next week. Stray Kismet says the haunting was the Corbett residence too, I think. Yes. That's why I said if you're going to run Mr. Corbett, you got to change the name. You got to change either his name or change the name when you're going to run the haunting / the haunted house. But I got to be honest, I don't know if the haunted house can be found anymore. I think it's in... Yep, here you go. So, I've never been able to pronounce this. Trail of Sathocha. I know people get mad at my pronunciation of Cthulhu. Once again, I will use a disclaimer saying I will pronounce Cthulhu the same way multiple award-winning horror authors pronounce the word. It's good enough for them. It's good enough for me. Anyway, it's in this. But to my knowledge, the only way you can get this is through this. I might be wrong, but I think that I don't think this is available separately unless it's available as a PDF. But yeah, that's another one that I really like. And then the final adventure is from 1984. It is from the fungi from Yogoth. It's also in The Day of the Beast, which I think was 2000, they did a reprint. It's out of print. I'll tell you that much right now. And the fungi from Yuggoth is it's not in here, is it? I'm almost positive it's not in here. I was going to say that was a little bit later, right? 84. I think it's a little too late to be in this box. It is not in that. Because I was going to say, I'm almost positive it's nowhere to be found. So Mark Green says Drive-Thru has it as a PDF still. So that would be this. I don't believe Drive-Thru has the fungi from Yuggoth or the Day of the Beast. I think it's the Curse of Cthulhu. I think that was the second time that it got the reprint. And then suddenly it was like, nope, not gonna share it again. So it is an adventure that's part of a campaign, but it actually makes for a really good standalone adventure. And it's The Thing in the Well. And this is another adventure where some people are going to be like, nope. I'm going to check out on this one because the investigators are looking into a child murderer. So kids are disappearing in Boston, and the player characters are on the trail of that. And I want to say that, it's kind of a spoiler just in the title, The Thing in the Well, because now you know where it's at. And I always liked that adventure because it had, I'm not real big on sort of, I don't want to say silly. I like my horror to have reality to it, right? I like my Call of Cthulhu adventures to have like a veneer of normality. And then underneath that is where the darkness lies, right? I'm not super big on adventures that are just right off the bat. They're very fantastical. That I'm not super keen on. So I think that's another reason why I really like The Thing in the Well, because it's like ripped from the headlines kind of thing, right? Whatever always pops into my head with that adventure, and I don't know why, is the torso killer, the Cleveland torso killer. Like I said, I don't know why that I always kind of like think of that when I'm thinking of that adventure, because it's got nothing to do with what's going on in the adventure outside of it being unsolved murders taking place. But Mark Green says, this was the first campaign I played. It was awesome. The moral choices it made you take. That's the other thing about the day. I guess the last time it was out, it was called The Day of the Beast. That was another thing that I liked about that campaign, because I ran it in 84 when it came out. And I liked it a lot because it wasn't all cut and dried. There were situations where it was sort of like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, which is another, that's a very Lovecraftian aspect to the adventures. Just like, as an example, I was talking about how on Monday I kicked off a campaign with my brother and my nephew and his girlfriend, and hopefully Ellie will get a chance to play. But the reason why I shifted gears back to Call of Cthulhu is because I know I can run Call of Cthulhu with 2 people. I can run Call of Cthulhu with 3 people. I don't have to have, 4 players, because everybody's got a role to play. And I've got enough on my plate juggling NPCs. I don't necessarily want to have to also play two characters in their adventuring group and stuff like that, right? But so Bard the Bear Wolfson says, so no Reanimator campaign? Funny enough, I'm not sure if people know this. I'm sure some of you know this, but originally Herbert West Reanimator was released in parts. It was a series, and it was in a satirical magazine. It was not in a horror magazine. So Herbert West Reanimator is supposed to be a humorous piece. I mean, there are some parts to the actual story itself, which are sort of, but you wouldn't think it would be like, what was it? What was the English magazine? Punch, something like Punch. Okay. All righty. But yes, the thing in the well, sadly, like I said, can't get it legally with the fungi from Yoggoth or the Curse of Cthulhu, I'm pretty sure it was reprinted as the Curse of Cthulhu. Even though I don't recall, I don't think Cthulhu has any role to play in it. And then, of course, Day of the Beast. So, yes, so there you go. So there are 5 Call of Cthulhu adventures that I really like. They're classic adventures. Do they need to be tweaked to give them more of a modern sort of feel to the proceedings? Sure. Are there some things that just don't add up as far as the adventures go? Yeah, you got to can't mess around with that. But I still think that they are pretty solid classic adventures. Dan Webb says Reanimator movie was pretty hilarious. Yes, I remember seeing that when it first came out. Elliot and I both went and saw it. We were like, this is awesome. All righty. So that is it for this time out. Be sure to join me next Tuesday. It'll be live stream 1300. That's right. It'll be stream 1300 of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, and there will be giveaways. And you'll have to watch live to be part of the giveaways. I might float 1 or 2 out for folks who are out there on sitting there watching on Memorex, because I don't want to leave them completely out. But I do want to try to get as many people watching live for episode 1300 as possible. Let's see. So Delta Green gave a nod to the thing in the well in one of their stories, says Stray Kismet. There are a lot of third-party Call of Cthulhu adventures and stuff out there that are really well done. I had almost talked about Countdown, which was Delta Green, but that was also Pagan Publishing. It was because originally Delta Green was for Call of Cthulhu. It was from Pagan Publishing. It's kind of what they're probably most known for. So Dennis Detwiller, I think it's Detwiller, to be honest, was part of that with Pagan Publishing. He was with Pagan Publishing long before he was with Arc Dream Publishing. But yes, Delta Green was one. There are also some really cool adventures that have come out in the 21st century. I just don't consider, and even if they came out in 2000, it's still 26 years ago. I still don't consider that classic Call of Cthulhu. For me, classic Call of Cthulhu is kind of like the first 10, 15 years it was out. That's really the classic years. Bard the Bear Wolfson said they just bought the Arkham Horror RPG. I've shared news pieces about it. I figure if, I got Call of Cthulhu. I mean, the only sort of Lovecraftian role-playing game I would maybe take a peek at. And of course, outside of like Delta Green, which I already have too, would be something where it's maybe if it's rules light, not necessarily storytelling, but rules light. So, all right. If you're watching live, thank you very much. If you watched live and took part in chat, tip of the cap to you, because not only were you keeping me company, you're also keeping each other company. Well, I'm sharing the news or pontificating about a topic. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out to watch any of the videos here on the channel. Of course, when you're not watching videos here on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for loads of tabletop gaming news, reviews, and plenty else you are never going to see here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Everybody enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. I will be back once again on Tuesday with episode 1300. If you like this video, though, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. And if you ring the bell, select all notifications, because that way you'll not only know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube. I'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my recent review of the Pirate Borg starter set from Limithron and Free League Publishing. Yay. Thank you kindly for watching. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and as always, I certainly hope each and every one of you gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.